So in Canada, crime has been increasing for the last 10 years. Not only crime, but violent crime. And repeat offenses are a problem in Canada as well. People who commit a crime, they get arrested and they get released on bail very, very quickly, and then they commit more crimes and they get caught and released on bail. This is happening over and over and over in cities across Canada, and it's part of the reason why there's an increase in crime and an increase in violent crime against people. Another big problem in Canada is the drug epidemic. So I know drug epidemics have always been around. However, this current opioid and fentanyl crisis, and this has been labeled an emergency crisis by governments in Canada. And there's rising use, rising overdoses, and rising deaths due to fentanyl and other opioids in Canada. And as a response, the government has been experimenting with a lot of different social exercises to try and combat this. So one of them is decriminalization of hard drugs. So this has happened in the province of British Columbia. Also, the federal government has allowed what they call safe supply of drugs. So what this is the government allowing drugs to be dispensed. So for example, cocaine or methamphetamines that are guaranteed free of fentanyl. So people who are addicted to cocaine or methamphetamines, they can take those drugs and they won't get an accidental fentanyl overdose. So one of the things that the police have admitted to is that these drugs, these safe supply drugs, once again, paid by your tax money. So as a Canadian, you pay nearly 50% of your income to the government in the form of taxes. Some of that money is going to buy these hard drugs, which the safe supply drugs. And these safe supply drugs have ended up in the hands of criminal dealers. So many people getting these safe supply drugs, they're turning around and selling them, and then they end up in the market and they fund other criminal activity. Also, with decriminalization, RCMP has reported that fentanyl manufacturing is also on the increase in Canada. So we have our own domestic fentanyl production in labs in Canada. Some other ways that the Canadian government has tried to combat the opioid overdoses is with more safe injection sites or consumption sites. Now, there have been some videos, some undercover documentaries showing these safe consumption sites, and they actually look quite disgusting inside. Now, I know the intent is to run them like a hospital, have nurses, have social workers, have addictions counselors, have all those things, needle exchanges. People can exchange their dirty needles, get clean needles in exchange, prevents hepatitis C transmission and HIV transmission between people. And I understand the benefits of these. Okay, I have a background in biology and microbiology and in public health, so I can speak with some authority on this. I do understand the concepts of harm reduction. However, what I've seen in these undercover videos in some of these consumption sites is not harm reduction. They look like a flop house. There are people laying around. There's filth everywhere, garbage everywhere. You don't see any staff. You don't see any supervision. You see people actively selling drugs, dealers hanging around. It's really not what the legislation intended. But they are like dropping an atomic bomb on a neighborhood. So regardless of how well these sites run internally, so even if they do run really well internally, they make for bad neighbors. They attract drug dealers. So in the vicinity, the people using drugs, they're going to need a supply from somewhere. Well, criminal dealers are going to come in and hang out nearby and take advantage of that. Also, people who buy drugs from criminal dealers, they need money for this. Where are they going to get money? They can't have jobs. They will break into cars. They will break into people's homes. They will rob people. They will steal things. They'll steal things from stores. They will shoplift. So it causes a lot of destruction in the neighborhoods around these sites as well. Another experiment that Health Canada employed a number of years ago were naloxone kits. So naloxone is a medication which reverses the effect of an opioid overdose. So somebody's overdosing on opioids, they can be given, and they're going to die, they can be given an injection of naloxone. And what that does is that counteracts the effects of the drugs. So there have been pilots by Health Canada, and I know they did this in the provinces of BC and Alberta, where anybody could walk into a pharmacy that has been given these naloxone kits, and you can just ask for a naloxone kit, and they will give it to you. They'll give it to you free, paid for. Well, it's not free. Somebody pays for it. Taxes pay for it, but you can get a naloxone kit. And inside this kit are some alcohol swabs, there's instructions, there's clean syringes, so everything's sterile in it, and there are also vials of the medication, naloxone. So somebody can safely use alcohol swab, they can use a syringe, take the naloxone, administer it to a friend who's overdosing or whatever, and save their friend's life. That was the intent of these naloxone kits. Now, when I lived in Alberta, I lived near several blocks away from a safe consumption site. And these naloxone kits, I was finding them in the alley everywhere around my home, just the kits. And I pick up garbage around my home. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to pick up litter in the neighborhood, and other people do too, right? Keep the neighborhood clean. So I was throwing away these naloxone kits that somebody had littered. I looked in the naloxone kit. I just opened it up and looked at it. It was interesting because all the naloxone medication was still in there. However, all the syringes and alcohol swabs were gone. So what that means is that people were going to the pharmacy, taking a naloxone kit, taking the syringes and alcohol swab, and throwing the rest away. That's I mentioned it to a pharmacist, and he was actually really frustrated about it. He said, "Yep, that's $35 to the taxpayer every time somebody wants just clean needles to get their clean needles this way." So that was really discouraging. Also, naloxone, something that's not really talked about, but Grace used to be a nurse, and she was an emergency nurse. She has seen patients been administered naloxone when they're overdosing. And what happens is they often get very, very violent to whoever is giving them their naloxone. Basically, even if they were dying, they were enjoying the drugs that they took while they were overdosing. So people get mad and they will assault people administering naloxone. And anybody who's watching this who's a paramedic or anything like that, or knows a paramedic, just ask paramedics what it's like administering naloxone to somebody. Another thing that the government has been doing is trying to destigmatize drug use. So part of the strategy is maybe drug use will go down if we just said, oh, you know what, it's fine, no judgment if you're taking these hard drugs. However, once again, I would counter that with once again, I'm speaking from my background in public health, from a public health education point of view. When the government wanted people to stop drinking and driving in the 1980s, had massive campaigns to stigmatize people who would drink and then get behind the wheel. So there are campaigns everywhere to stop drinking and driving. Take away somebody's keys if they're drinking and they want to drive home. If you are drinking and you are trying to drive home, police will get you. You will go to prison. Shame on you. You can destroy somebody's life. And it was a fantastic campaign because impaired driving did drop. Impaired driving fell. And it was a multifaceted campaign. There was all kinds of other initiatives as well. Designated drivers, encouraging that, encouraging people to call cabs, posting numbers of cab companies in bars and things like that, putting signs up even outside liquor stores and stuff. Just all sorts of things. But anyways, they reduced drunk driving by stigmatizing drunk driving. In the 1990s and in the early 2000s, there were campaigns, large campaigns against tobacco and smoking. So smoking is unhealthy. Smoking is bad for you. Smoking causes cancer. Massive campaigns. They put warnings on cigarette packages, disgusting photos of tumors on them. Just stop smoking campaigns were everywhere. They were in schools, they were in universities, they were in workplaces, they were trying to stigmatize behavior. Certain venues would say, you know what, cafes and things like that would say, you know what, we're not going to allow smoking anymore. Not even on our patio. No more smoking. Smoking is disgusting. We want people to stop smoking. They stigmatized smoking for people. And it reduced smoking. There's still lots of people smoke, but when I was a child, everything smelled like cigarettes. Everybody was smoking. Now that's I still know people who smoke, but it's a lot fewer than there was. So stigmatization worked. So now we have a problem with people seeking hard drugs and seeking fentanyl and opioids and becoming addicts and harming other people because of it. And the government wants to avoid saying anything bad about any of that. People will argue, and I can actually make this argument too, that government has been enabling drug use and opioid use in Canada. So not only are safe consumption sites something that may make it easier for people to find drugs, but also in BC, outside of a hospital.
Let's go get a free crack pipe and cocaine smoking kit. So now we can learn how to snort cocaine with this informational video right here. So I'm outside the Nanaimo Hospital and I was able to get a crack inhalation kit and a cocaine snorting kit. Unfortunately, the crack pipes were out, which is no surprise because crack pipes can be traded for drugs. All of these items you can get for free at a vending machine located just directly over there outside of the Nanaimo Hospital emergency room.
That just encourages them. You know, bars don't have vending machines for cigarettes anymore. Because we've stigmatized that behavior. We've kind of outlawed easier ways to get tobacco. But here they are putting in plain sight ways to make it easier for people to do drugs. Another example are some kits that information packages given to children in schools. Now, I didn't know this was happening until actually one of my neighbors. This was a couple of years ago. One of my neighbors who used to live in Vancouver Island, he actually pulled his children from the schools there, and they're moving, they moved to Alberta. But he showed me some photos of what his children came home from school with, and his children came home from school with some pamphlets all about cocaine and methamphetamines and ecstasy and a bunch of other drugs, and how to do them and what these drugs are and how to safely do them and where to safely get your drugs tested. So if you do want to do them, where to go to make sure that they're safe. And along with that came with a packaged straw, so that if you are going to snort cocaine, here's a clean straw. So it's not going to have someone else's blood on it from their sinus, and you're not going to get spread hepatitis or HIV that way. Funnily enough, I thought this was hilarious too. It was a plastic straw wrapped in plastic. And I know, I go to a 7-Eleven right now. If I want to get a Slurpee, I get a paper straw a cardboard straw and a paper package because they want to reduce plastic. But but for drug use, we'll give you plastic, and we'll give kids plastic. So his children were in grade 5, and they received this. So he pulled them out of the school. He complained. Anyway, also there have been some events this summer in 2025 that have been reported in the news where certain organizations, and this one happened to be a pride organization, so I think they hand out a lot of this drug information, trying to reduce harmful drug use if they're going to choose to recreationally use drugs. So anyway, one of these organizations that hands out these materials at pride events was invited to a school, and they were handing them out to elementary children. So now is that stigmatizing drug use? Is that going to help reduce people overdosing or getting addicted to drugs and eventually addicted to opioids and fentanyl and overdosing? Does that prevent that, or do these things enable people to seek it out easier? I think the way Canada is going about solving its opioid crisis and drug epidemics is not right. It's not improving. Things are getting worse on that front, and they're trending in the wrong direction. And once again, it's due to government policy, but people elect the government, and this is what Canadians have voted for.